I have a feeling that we're live, but I think for the sake of tradition, we'll just make sure that we invite people to put a comment through. Good evening, kia ora, everybody. You're being joined by Arunima and Zinnia from Ames Global. I just wanted the first comment to show up. Otherwise, the heart never tells that you're live. So if someone can please just let us know that you guys are watching us so that we can start. Good, I can see some viewers building up. Today we haven't, you know that every time there's a policy update, there's something massive that, thank you, Pankaj. Every time there's a policy update, there's something that's massive that drops from immigration. You know that we will always come. We've come slightly late this time, and there's a reason for it. Hello, Mary. Hello, Reena, Prabjot, Ajinkya. Thank you very much, guys. We've come in a few weeks later because we wanted to make sure that we can let the dust settle down. We wanted to make sure that we can come with something concrete, and also because today was INZ's webinar on this, that we were keeping our fingers crossed that we would get a lot more information. I don't want to break a lot of hearts, but we actually haven't got a lot of information, as it happens with INZ's webinars. So today we will try and talk to you about what we can talk to you, what we can tell you. Okay, we'll give you a gist of what's happening. So let's talk about the resident visa. I think you all know what the requirements are. Zinnia, just very quickly, can you do a recap for us? I'll let the questions build up, and then we can get people, give them a heads up from the webinar today that we know.
Okay, so just a couple of, do you want me to cover the key points from the webinar?
Yeah, let's start. No. Let's start with what are the requirements. Let's break that down first. Just very simple, break down the requirements. So the first thing is you must be in New Zealand on the 29th of September,
That's
2021.
Right. That's the first thing. That's a mandatory requirement for everyone. There are some few exceptions for those that were in Australia during the travel bubble and those that are on critical purpose visitor visas yet to arrive. So just two categories of exception, but generally the 29th September 2021 rule applies to all. That's the first. The second mandatory requirement is that you must be on an eligible visa as of 29th September 2021. So that's the second mandatory requirement. And the third mandatory requirement, which is where most of the confusion is coming from, is the people have to meet one of the three sub-requirements, just one of the three sub-requirements. They are based around the three S's. The scarce list, that means you have a job on that list. The third one, so the other one is skilled, means you're paid median wage, $27 an hour or above. And settled, that you've spent 821 days in New Zealand between 29 September 2021 and 3 years preceding that. 821 days is roughly equivalent to 2.25 years. So there's three S's. People only have to meet one of the S's, not all of the S's. So there's been a lot of confusion around that. We've been running a lot of polls on our Facebook page. We've had over 400 participants, and a lot of people are giving just yes, no in terms of checking their understanding. A lot of people are under the impression that you need $27 an hour. So there's a lot of confusion around just the three S's, but I think we can delve a little bit more into that as we go on.
Perfect. Thank you. So there was just a quick heads up. Most of you would know that. There's some fantastic questions that are building up, and I'll let them build. But some of the commonly asked questions that we've been getting and some of the takeaways from today's webinar. The first thing which I found really mind-boggling was that about 70% of the people that are going to be applying within this category, as per immigration's calculation, are going to meet the settled criteria. So about 70% of people will have the 821 days between 29th of September 2018 and 29th of September 2021. I think that is enormous. So those 70% of people are not claiming the $27 and they're not in the scarce list. So it is quite interesting. Also, there were some questions that were asked previously, and because we've been manning thousands of calls and inquiries through Facebook and emails, and I can see some of our existing clients that have signed up here as well. One of the questions that was coming out quite strongly was that, is immigration going to add more visa categories or more eligible visas within that space? Because there's a lot of people that are on partner visas that are not eligible, people on working holidays that missed out, students that went back to study, they missed out. So what immigration has advised in the webinar is that they've got no plan to add further categories. it is obviously very disheartening for those people that just missed it by that. In fact, we know clients that are on specific purpose work visas and working holidays earning 130K, and they're not eligible. So it is, yeah. So we can't really delve into how fair or not fair the system is. It is obviously advantaging a lot of people, but also is seeing some very angry people who've missed out on this. The other thing that there's some questions, and we'll probably cycle back to the questions with some of this. The other thing that we have also been advised, as you know, immigration will be reaching out to people end of October. Now, it looks like it might be sort of like an auto email that's triggered if you have your application in the system and if you're eligible, but it's not really checking your eligibility criteria. We don't know what that email is going to look like, so more to tell when that email comes out. But immigration has got it on the plan to send out emails end of October. There's some good audience building up. Just while I'm as this is building up, and before I pass it on to Zinnia, it is just letting you guys know, for those of you that are engaged with us for this visa application, we are going to be running an exclusive webinar on the 27th of October, and you should be getting emails and more details on that. So we're hoping that we can share more details on the 27th. Zinnia, do you just want to talk about partnership criteria in this resident visa?
So while the instructions haven't been published and we're still waiting for them to be published, it is the same criteria that SMC has, residence from work has, that the partner has to be living together in a genuine, stable relationship. Like, they have to be genuine, stable, living together. And so as a result of that, there is that 12-month requirement for couples to live together, which is making, again, people that I think, because immigration's website has said it, that those you can include your family offshore. So we've got the whole split family issue that people can't come because they haven't lived together. So a lot of people are thinking that, they can just include them in this application. And so that's not going to be an option for them because they haven't done the 12 months of living together ever.
Yeah. So just to recap on that as well, the 12 months doesn't need to be consecutive. So there are a lot of people that had lived together overseas. They got separated and they had living together 12 months or 2 years, but that was a few years ago. So that's okay, as long as you have lived together for a minimum of 12 months in your partnership and you meet the other boxes, you should be eligible. But the 12 months living together does apply. Also, what I can also advise you guys that the question that we asked quite often is, what happens to my job? Can I change jobs? I may be on $27 on the 29th of September 2021, and I may actually be in a different job on the 1st of March or in the scarce list when I apply on the 1st of March. As long as you meet the eligibility requirements on the 29th of September 2021 and the day that you apply. So on the 1st of December, if you phase 1, or on the 1st of March, if you phase 2, you should be okay. But you have to meet eligibility requirements on the 29th of September and when you apply. There's also, they have also advised that the stand down period will be removed for now, but it's not going away forever. So they're just moving that forward. It'll come eventually, but for now, the stand down period will disappear. So those of you that may be subject to the stand down period with your temporary visas expiring, you should be okay for now. Okay. Let's start taking.
Add one
Sure.
thing. So one thing immigration also said was that there's about 230,000 temporary migrants onshore in New Zealand, which includes like student visa, visitor visa, all types of temporary migrants. This residence scheme is going to be given to about 165,000 people. So that's just over half of them would be getting residence under this category. But for those that have missed out and have not made it under RB 2021, immigration did say today that, it's not the end of the line. Other residence categories will open up, and so they just said that. They didn't give too much, obviously, around it, but that's what they said, that those that haven't made it to this will have other choices in the future.
Yeah, what that's going to look like, we will wait with bated breath, to be honest. Okay, so I think there's some questions that I can see that are around work visas expiring. So people that may apply for the resident visa, but your temporary visa is expiring. The question that I'm being asked quite repeatedly is, will INZ just extend my visa? Will I get an auto extension on my temporary visa to stay in the country while my resident visa is under processing? The information that we've received so far is that there's no more auto extensions coming. There's auto extensions that have just come in for working holiday and RSC workers. Apart from that, we're being told that there is no more auto extension, but then you never know. That's just what we've checked through our sources. We've also been advised that a lot of people would fall into the streamlined criteria for essential skills, which means they've been working in that same position and then they're extending the visa with the same position, which means advertising shouldn't be required. So it is relatively easier to extend your work visas, but we haven't been told of any auto extensions when we ask the question. The next one, okay, that's also. So yeah, so I think the key message that we're giving is if the auto extensions don't come, which looks likely that they won't, then you have to be mindful of applying and extending your work visas. Because if that doesn't happen, the auto extension doesn't happen, you'll need to be on a valid visa for that resident visa to continue processing. Zinnia, you've addressed this one. The question says anything about partners who are not living together but have just under a 2-year-old baby. If you can just quickly repeat.
It would be the same situation that the 12-month living together requirement would be met. That's the narrative that has been given so far. When the instructions are published, if that changes, then that changes. But so far, the narrative is that 12 months of living together is required.
Yeah. And there are some questions that we can't really answer in a forum like this. Like there's a question here which is asking, how do I prove that my husband drives a specific type of tanker? That's specific to your case. Can't really answer that here. We do welcome that you contact us for individual consultation. 15 minutes, we offer complimentary consultation for every single person if you haven't spoken to us previously. Okay, skilled migrant category, resident visa on 120 points. Any hope for invitation? Parveen, your question doesn't really make sense. Sorry, I don't understand it.
I think they might be asking is that they've got a EY and like they've got 120 points and they're offshore. Any chance that they could get an invitation? I think.
I don't know where it's offshore because 120 points doesn't qualify anyway. Sorry, just bear with me. Zinnia, is there anything else you need to add? There's quite a lot of questions I'm sifting through and reading through.
That's fine. I'll just read out the question because I'm looking at it at a different forum than I'm looking on Facebook. So there's a question here. What is the email immigration will be sending around end of October, as you said? Is it a sort of, actually, Arunima, you answer this. Is it a sort of invitation to apply based on the database they have?
Yeah, we don't really know. You've seen in the past as well, immigration has sent sort of almost like mass emails to people because they can see that these people either have an application. I mean, we know that phase one, and Zinnia, maybe you can list who goes into phase one very quickly, but we know that phase one immigration has got those details. So it's quite relatively easy for them to actually check and see that these people meet these requirements and contact them into like a one big email. Yeah, so we don't really know what the contents of this email is going to be, but I wouldn't think there would be anything different that they've done in the past with regards to sometimes, you know, your visa's expiring or with SMCs, they used to do that. They used to have these similar emails around timeframes. Zinnia, is there anything that you want to add in there?
It will. So while we don't know the content of the email, what we do know that it won't be an invitation to apply for this residence, because the thing is you have to actually submit the residence when it opens, like you have to make a fresh application. So it's not like, because you get an ITA when you submit an EOI in the SMC world. So it's not going to be like that. That's all probably that I wanted to add, that, you know, because people are still, I think maybe it's a good segue into talking about conversion of applications, where people are thinking, again, we ran a Facebook poll. It was actually, I think 84% of the people answer incorrectly, where they thought, and it's 400 respondents, they thought they can submit, they can convert the existing SMC applications or residence from work applications into this one. They can just do a conversion. So if you just want to comment on that.
Yeah. So immigration has said that this is a new application. There's a new online form that people need to fill in. So this is not a conversion application. In fact, a question that I can possibly read out to you that was sent, that was received from immigration will SMC cases currently under assessment be decided under current instructions pending 0112? Or if those applications get declined, what happens? Do they get converted over? Immigration has said quite clearly that they will assess the applications on hand that are against the instructions that was in force when those applications were lodged. If, say, for example, an SMC application is declined, they've got the right to appeal. but it is a very separate application. If you want to go into this new category, you actually have to make an application. A lot of people think that the applications will be switched over. That may be the case for the fees. The question that was asked today was around the fees. What happens to fees? Because people have, paid for SMC, their residence from work, and when they apply for this, do they have to pay it again? Immigration hasn't given any concrete details. I believe that those decisions are still in front of the cabinet, but we have been told repeatedly that nobody will have to double pay. And immigration is trying to work out ways to avoid refunds. So it could be possible that the fees for the previous application may be transferred over. We don't have the details yet, but this is a separate application. What's the processing time for the ones who are going to be applied on December 1? Zinnia, do you want to take that?
Again, immigration hasn't given indication, but Immigration Minister Chris Farfoy, when he had his press conference speech, he said a couple of months. He's like, the phase 1 people were looking to get them sorted, like get their residencies done and dusted within a couple of months.
Yeah. There's a few questions coming around registered occupations, whether they're on the list or not. One of the things immigration has said quite clearly is that if you fall into an occupation that requires registration to operate by law, to be able to work into that occupation, like electricians and early childhood teachers, you must have that registration. So ECE teachers, and there's a question here, ECE teachers are required to be registered by law. So you need occupational registration for that occupation. Oh, there's some people love putting the question multiple times. I'm glad that we're getting through all the questions. Will they consider any talent-accredited work visa applications post 29th of September 2021? That's what Mary's question is.
Would they consider any talent work? I can't see the question. Can you please repeat it?
I've actually lost the question as well, but because there's so many of them. But this one, where is it? So yeah, I'll find it. But Mary's question said that will they consider any talent work visa applications after 29th of September? There it is. I'll just put it on the screen so you can see it.
Will they consider any talent-accredited work visa applied post 29 September? Is she talking about residence or work visa?
No, so I can answer that. I can answer that very quickly. So Mary, talent-accredited work visa applications are going to be accepted till the end of October. That category remains open till the end of this month. From the 1st of November, nobody can apply for accredited work visa applications because the category actually closes if it's your first time. So 29th of September has got nothing to do with the talent accredited work visa requirements, basically. So totally separate dates. So Quinta, we've just gone through the requirements of the one-off residence right at the beginning of this video. So when it does finish, just watch it from the beginning. Do you want to take this one, Zinnia? It's a bit curly.
Hi, my husband holds a work to residence and we're eligible to apply for residence from work after mid of November. Also, we're eligible for 21 residence visa for phase 2. Should we need, this is the common one that we keep getting all the time, even in the office as well. Whether you should apply for residence from work or if you should apply for this 2021 residence visa.
That's a very good question. So those of you, listen carefully.
Yes, technically you can apply either or, right? So like the option is open for you to go either way. But if you're not a prioritized application, remember that under the normal RFW stream, if you don't meet the priority criteria, your application is going to linger on for 2 years. Whereas it would make more sense to then just go under this one where the processing time frame is a year, 1 year, 12 months, about a year, maximum of 12 months. You would likely get the residence faster if you go under the 21 residence visa rather than going under the RFW if you are not a prioritized applicant. I think that's probably the best kind of
So
way.
I think it is, yeah. So I think just to sum it up, it is quite important for you to understand both the pathways and then be able to work out which one is a faster pathway for you. Because the last thing you want to do is go through a pathway that's going to take you 3 times longer and miss this one-off opportunity. Because you need to understand that the one-off opportunity only has a small window. It's not open indefinitely. The first phase opens on 1st of December all the way through end of February next year. And then the phase 2 opens 1st of March through to, I think, end of July, Zinnia? End of July? End of July. So you've got a real small window to be able to get those applications in. So it is really important that you do pick the fastest pathway because a lot of people will be eligible through both the pathways that they've got. Zinnia, do you want to, there's a specific question for you. Please elaborate limited medicals required and police clearance for resident visa 2021.
Okay, so in this resident visa 21, the police clearance immigration has said that they're not going to be asking for offshore police certificates. That's all they've said so far. We wait for the instructions to come out to see what definitive scenarios it would cover. The limited certificates is a different type of certificate that only partners and dependents have to get when they're applying for family type residence visas. And what they've said is that if you do have to provide a medical, because bear in mind your medicals are valid for up to 3 years regardless anyway once you submit them, but if you do have to provide a medical, it would be a limited medical that you would need to provide. Sorry. And that's what this criteria is, which has not applied to any other residence categories beforehand.
Yeah. So those, like Zinnia said, the policy is not out yet. The instructions are not out yet. So we can't tell you black and white what that actually means. But we've been told that you shouldn't need full comprehensive character and medical certificates. There's a question here. It says, when you submit this new resident visa, the date you submitted the application, will that determine your position in the new queue? It's a very good question. Reason asking, waiting for 17 months already, and I'm on a WTR visa, and I submitted my subsequent WTR as well because my visa is running out next month. So how will the queue work?
So this person, and I don't know where they are in the comments, but this person would be phase 1 because they've got a residence submitted already, right? If I'm hearing it correctly.
Yeah.
They've got a residence.
Yeah, that's how they would have got their subsequent. Steve, I don't really know, but if you've got a subsequent, that would have been at the back of you submitting a residence from work. That's the only way you can get a subsequent.
That's right. So they would be phase 1. And yes, immigration always takes applications in the order that they've submitted. Like they haven't said that they would do any different this time. So I think it would be a safe assumption regardless, but it would be a safe assumption to assume that it's first in first served basis because that's how a queue is built. But irrespective, if you're phase 1, you're prioritized regardless. So it would move quickly.
Yeah, and all we know in that regard is what the minister said in the press conference as well. They are, like Zinnia said, prioritizing that phase 1 because you do meet there's separate requirements and there's only certain type of cohorts that can fit into that phase 1. If you do meet that, you'll be prioritized, and then everybody else falls into the phase 2. Robin, you've got a good question here. If someone holds an essential skills and eligible for 2021 resident visa, can he change his employer and region, but job duties and position would be the same? Well, the thing is that it doesn't matter what requirements you meet. So Zinnia listed the 3 requirements. As long as you meet one of the 3 requirements on the 29th of September 2021, and then at the time of you making the application, obviously you'll have to continue making them till immigration makes a decision, because otherwise if they check and you don't meet the requirements, it doesn't make sense. But as long as you meet one of the requirements, it could be different requirements on 29th and a different requirement on the 1st of December, for example, you should be okay. But you have to meet the requirements. Anything that you want to add there, Zinnia?
No, I'll let you move on. I didn't quite understand the question, so I'll let you move to the next.
I think the person's just saying if they change the position and everything. It doesn't matter if you change your position. You just have to meet the requirements for the resident visa. That are just the 3 requirements.
That was the case with SMCs and stuff like that as well. As long as you meet the requirements, it's okay to change.
Okay, this is a good one, actually. Miguel says, what happens if I lived 15 months between 2014 and 15, and then 821 plus days since 2016 to now with a 3-year visa? Am I eligible based on the 3-year criteria? So Miguel's kind of done his own calculation. Miguel, the calculation needs to be, it's pretty simple. 29th of September 2018, you should have arrived in New Zealand prior to this date, before the 29th of September 2018, and from 29th of September 2018 to 29th of September 2021, you must have met the 821 days. That's simple. So you don't need to kind of do that calculation. It wouldn't really help. Okay. Can I apply, Elosi? Can I apply the 2021 residence while waiting for an SMC decision? Why don't you introduce other members in your team? Thank you, Elosi. You let us know who you want to be introduced to, and we shall absolutely make the introduction. Zinnia, do you want to take the first part of the question?
Yep. Also, if you scroll down a couple of posts, just a couple of hours, we did a post about there was a post about the rest of our team members. Okay, so the first question was, can you
Apply for the resident visa if you're
if
still waiting for your SMC
yes,
decision.
yes, absolutely, you can absolutely do that. Which is what phase one people are. Phase one are people who have submitted their residencies, including SMC, and are waiting a decision on them still. That's specifically, so this is phase one is designed for that specific situation.
Rahul, that's a really good question. You've asked whether you could fixed term casual contract could be considered. This question has been specifically asked to immigration, and so far we're still waiting for decision. What I've been told unofficially is that casual may not be okay, but others are okay, but we're still waiting for confirmation in writing from immigration. Hasn't come through yet, and it wasn't addressed in the webinar this morning, even though we sent the questions through. Okay. If someone is on essential skills visa and the visa is expiring in November, can they apply for one-off resident visa on October link? Still they need to renew the visa?
So the visa, I think what he's asking is, can you apply early? No, you can't. 1st of December is the earliest it opens, and you're only phase one people can apply in the 1st of December submissions starting from 1st. If you're not phase one and you're phase two, you cannot apply prior to March, 1st of March. If your visa expires in November, then you do need to file another visa because you do have to maintain a lawful status this whole time while the residence is being processed. And before that,
yeah, I really like this question from Equinder. How about those who got their SMC decline passed this year? Do they apply for one-off resident visa, or is there any issue? So it is quite important for you to understand that SMC was a separate category. If you got a decline in that category, you can look at going into an appeal, like I just said earlier. If you don't want to go into that appeal and you're eligible for the resident visa, that's a separate category. So whether or not you had a previous decline, you can absolutely apply for this visa if you're eligible. The only thing is if the form does say that have you had a previous decline, make sure you declare yes.
There's a question here, which I think is a good one as well. It says, Tony asks, my SMC is under process since 2019. Will my application processing be stopped or will it continue as per normal? I'm assuming if he submits the 21 RB. The answer to that question is, Arunima, do you know the answer?
Sorry, I didn't listen to the question. Because I think you and I are looking at different windows, so I'm still sifting through the questions.
The question is that, will my SMC processing stop if I submit the RB 2021?
Oh, so the officer hasn't picked up the application. It's just an idea that's sitting with immigration in the queue.
So he says
I assume that's
the process since 2019. So yeah, I mean, it should be like allocated.
Probably. Okay, so there's two scenarios here. One is that it's your SMC is actively with an officer at the moment, which means the officer is actually processing and asking for information. There's verification going on. What's going to happen to that? Whether the officer gives you a chance to apply for the new RV, what happens to the fees, we don't know. That scenario has been asked. The second scenario is that you've applied for your ITA, hasn't got to an officer, sitting somewhere in a queue, you don't know, and then you're in a situation. That's exactly what we talked about, that if you are eligible for the RV, you can apply for that. And whether your fees is going to be transferred from the SMC onto this, we don't know. We're waiting for those decisions. But nothing's going to happen automatically. So
And so his question was also whether the processing on the SMC will stop. Processing on SMC will not stop unless you pull it out from that queue, because SMC is still running. They're not going to stop SMC and stop processing applications that are in there. But what is expected is that most people are going to pull it out of SMC and they're going to put it under RB21.
And I think it is also really important just to take a step back and sort of just understand that at a time when immigration will have this huge volume of applications, you can expect those applications that are non-prioritized in the SMC queue to take even longer, because immigration will try and use most of their resources towards this category that they will try and push faster. And I think that goes back to what we just said at the beginning, that it's important for you to understand what queue is better for you. And if the new resident visa queue is better for you, then go for that one, because that'll move faster. And immigration has said that nobody should have to pay double the fees. And that nobody should be disadvantaged. What that's going to look like, we will have to just wait and watch.
Okay. All right.
Wow. We've got one more minute before we wrap it up. I don't even know what question to take because there's so many questions. I'll actually take this one. Do we need to meet LTSSL requirements to be eligible? That's a really good question. And we actually asked this question to immigration. What we've been told so far is that no, we don't have to look at the LTSSL requirements so far to be eligible. And that's what we've got from immigration. But we're waiting for further instructions to come out before the actual applications open up.
Oh, I think we can look at closing comments now.
Yeah. Is there anything that's really, we don't know the charges yet, it hasn't come out. Zinnia, is there anything that you want to talk about? Maybe just talk about full-time work. There's a lot of questions around that, just that we...
Yeah, so I think the full-time work is just, it's immigration's requirements requires it's 30 hours per week or more, so it can't be less than 30 hours per week. That essentially is what full-time work is. And the employment that they require in this case is just casual's not okay. Casual employment so far is what we've been told can change. But other types of contracts should be okay. Obviously, part-time's not okay because it needs to be full-time employment. That's it.
Yeah. So that's us, guys. We did try to get through as many questions as we could possibly. Please do feel free to reach out to us. Our teams have been literally talking to lots of people. And again, a reminder for those of you that have engaged with us for the Resident Visa 2021, we are going to be running an exclusive webinar on the 27th of October at 12 p.m. And you should be getting those invitations into your inbox. It is strictly for clients that have engaged with us so that we can actually try and offer further clarity and answer some of those questions. That's us on a Friday evening.
I think before we go, I'll probably just say this, that, with this residence visa, everyone knows it's like a once in a lifetime opportunity that's come up because it's only a short window. But it's something to be appreciated that it's never happened before where, whenever you had a residence category, people worked towards it, right? People could work towards it. With this category, because the announcement came on the 30th and the requirements had to be met the day before, it was like a lottery. People couldn't work towards it, which is why it's such a luck of the draw where those are eligible and some are not. And we understand that, like as advisors, like we all understand what has happened here. I think I would probably just say that with the SMC, government said they'll make announcements on SMC after the 31st of July. What announcements they will be, we don't know. And also, like for people who've got lots of questions, I think I just want to talk about that our website under immigration news, we've got some great FAQs, frequently asked questions. We've got them in 2 parts because otherwise it was too much. It's too hard to read. It's a great source of information for people that are looking to just get answers to these random, commonly asked questions that are not clear from immigration's website.
Yeah, actually, if someone from our team is actually watching, if you can just post the link to that blog in here, that'll be fantastic. But yeah, with that, I think it is Friday evening and we can all go back to our families. You guys stay safe. Yeah.
That's us. The sun is still shining. Time to wrap it up.